Hi everyone, welcome to lecture 3A of Life Changes. You would have already gone through lecture 3 on just looking at life changes and the two key studies. So again, we're going to use the key studies, and we're going to focus in on previous examination questions that they've asked. Again, just a recap. Lecture 3, we looked at what we mean by life changes, and we looked at Holmes and Ray's social readjustment rating scale. Okay, so we looked at that. If you don't remember what that is, I suggest go back and look at lecture 3. And then we looked at the two key studies. So, examination questions, a typical one, we just went straight back into it. This was a very recent one, actually. And some people may think, oh, because it's so recent, this was in June 2013, that's last year June. People may think, oh, they're not going to ask it again. They could do, yeah. So I suggest that you're prepared for it as well. Outline and evaluate research into life changes and or daily hassles as sources of stress for 12 marks. I'm not going to cover this in this particular lecture simply because I actually want to show you a proper written out version, and also I actually want to cover daily hassles. So you're not actually going to see the 12 mark this 12 mark question until, let's find it for you, lecture 4B. So if you want to look out for lecture 4B, and I would have written out this particular question, and by then we would have finished daily hassles as well. Okay, so 4B, this one will be in. Outline and evaluate research into life changes as sources of stress. Again, I'm going to write this out fully in lecture 4B as well. However, if we look back at our two key researches, outline and evaluate research into life changes as sources of stress. Research is not asking for researches. Outline AO1 to outline one research and evaluate a strength and a weakness, maybe. 8 marks, so we know it's going to be divided into 4 marks for our outline, our knowledge and understanding, and 4 marks for our evaluation. Very, very simple as. So for me, I'd have probably picked the Ray one to do, or you could pick the Michael and Benzer. It's up to you. So I'd have picked that one to do, outlined it, and given 2 evaluations. Get in there, get out straight away. Lee and Dennis, again, an application question because they've used names of people and they want you to talk about these people and their lives when you are writing down your answer. So this is the 4 marks. So Lee and Dennis were talking in a doctor's waiting room. Dennis remarked that his new neighbors were very noisy and that whenever he drove into town, it was getting increasingly difficult to find anywhere to park. To me, obviously, we haven't looked at daily hassles yet, but to me, these are kind of like daily hassle issues. Whereas Lee said that his wife had died recently, major life change, and that he was just about to retire. So these are 2 major life changes that Lee is basically dealing with. Using examples from the conversation above, discuss the difference between life changes and daily hassles, and this is for 4 marks. So 2 marks in terms of what is a life change, in terms of, according to Lee, Lee's is a major transition in terms of his life because his wife has just died and is about to retire. So you talk about the major transitioning, whereas daily hassles, you use that to talk about Dennis in terms of his really noisy neighbours and all the traffic, and in terms of finding it difficult to park anywhere he goes into town, blah blah blah. Yeah, so straightforward, simple question we can be asked here in terms of the differences between the two. Both life changes and daily hassles, again, they'd like to ask questions together with daily hassles, but when we've completed daily hassles, which will be lecture 4, let's double check. Yeah, daily hassles will be our next lecture, which will be lecture 4. You'll be able to understand it a bit more. So give 2 limitations of using questionnaires. So not ask for any strengths. So questionnaires, for example, you can have the feedback response. We may not be able to get as much feedback because people don't tend to fill it out. Or you can use things like social desirability bias, that people actually lie in questionnaires and it might not be truthful or valid. Yep, so you can use any of those particular things, or you can use that people are not able to elaborate, may not be able to elaborate on their answers because it's some questionnaires more likely to generate quantitative data, especially when they're looking at stress. Yeah, so or some people may forget daily hassles. You can forget all the daily hassles and not report it, so that won't be valid. So you can have so much limitations you can use for a questionnaire. Right, so the following are examples, oh, we love these kind of questions. The following are examples of stress in everyday life. Some are life changes and some are daily hassles. From the list, select 2 examples of life changes and 2 examples of daily hassles. Again, I prefer to probably use a process of elimination. So I put A, divorce. I put life change next to that. B, household chores. I'll probably put daily hassle. C, room temperature. I'll probably put daily hassle. D, retirement from work. I'll put a life change. E, traffic jams, daily hassle. F, getting married, life change. G, changing school, life change. H, missing a bus, daily hassle. So we've got quite a few to pick from. So just want you to select 2. Just pick any 2. That's your life change and any 2 from daily hassles. Again, 4 marks. Shouldn't take us more than 6 minutes to do this. In fact, it should take us less time to do this because it's relatively quite simple. But make sure you do a process of elimination. Make sure you think about each of these things and if it causes a major transition in someone's life. Like traffic jams is not going to cause a major transition because the next day there could be no traffic jams. Whereas divorce, you could be living with one person one day and the next day they're not going to be there basically and you're by yourself. That's a major transition. Yeah, so really think about that question first. And then finally, I can't believe it's only a few questions for each other. Explain what psychological research has shown about the stressful impact of either life changes or daily hassles. Then there they go again, including life changes with daily hassles. Again, when we do daily hassles in lecture 4, everything will just become a lot clearer. You can pick whichever one you want to do. But at the moment, because we're only doing life changes, we focus on life changes. So explain what psychological research. Again, not what you think or what you feel, but psychological research. And what psychological research do we have to play with? Not much, which is a good thing. Yeah, either the Ray or Michael and Benzer. So let's just look at Ray et al. Because that's a popular one continuously. And when it says shown, we basically want to know about the findings, about how stressful life changes can be. So if we go back to our key study 1, we know that um, the findings in terms of these men, so Navy men who had high life change units, they had the most things that happened in their life, they had the higher rates of illnesses, yeah, whereas men with low life change units had fewer illnesses. Okay, it's a 4 mark question. Again, you don't really need to break the bank. You just do your findings. But because we're so smart, and we have basically 2 researchers in our bank. We can also do the findings of this research where widowed people they had a higher life satisfaction before bereavement, whereas divorced people high life satisfaction after divorce, which shows that a life change can have an impact on in terms of our satisfaction or our mental well-being or something like that. Yeah, so you can either do one finding from the Ray et al, or you can just do 2 brief findings from the 2 studies, whichever one, that's fine. But can you see how we don't have to remember so much studies? We can just use what we have. Okay, so I'll see you again in lecture 4 when we start looking at daily hassles. Bye.